When it comes to defending the unborn, Marjorie Dannenfelser is simply the leading voice in America, president of the Susan B. Anthony List, a friend of mine for many, many years, and a woman who I think is just where we all need her to be at such a time as this. Marjorie Dannenfelser, thank you so much for your contributions to the Freedom Agenda, to its elements on American culture, and welcome to American Freedom.
Well, thank you. Right back at you for leading this moment. It's so vital. Thank you.
I told folks they can check out the Freedom Agenda at advancingamericanfreedom.com, but Marjorie, you know that the very first section of the Freedom Agenda is not on the economy, it's not on national security, it's on American culture. And the very first thing that we talk about is the right to life and ending taxpayer funding for abortion, ending funding to Planned Parenthood of America, ending the assault on faith-based adoption and foster care agencies, supporting crisis pregnancy centers, and the like. Tell us how important it is to have a positive agenda at this moment in history for where we go as a movement.
Oh my goodness. You asking me that question is quite humbling because you've led this with your voice and your vision for so many years, not just on the "we won't pay for it" piece of it, but what we are, who we are as a nation. You've said this over and over again, and I try to echo it and communicate it in my own work state by state, and that is that this right is the font for every other right. If you don't get this right, it's very difficult to get other rights in line with truth. If you do get it right, if you do affirm the right to life, then the idea of the dignity of the human being informs everything that you do. The idea that if you understand and communicate as you do, and so many in the pro-life movement attempt to do, communicate the dignity and the humanity of the human being, it informs all other policies. So it's so vital to get it right, and I'm so grateful that you do. And we're in a moment where it's going to be in the middle of conversation in a way that has not been in 50 years. So getting it right now is really important.
It's as you helped to build this part of the Freedom Agenda, that the Freedom Agenda literally opens with a commitment to honor the God-given worth and dignity of all people. And you said that just so very eloquently. But I was proud to be vice president in the most pro-life administration in American history, in one aspect of after another, whether it be appointing conservatives to our federal courts, whether it be reaffirming the Mexico City policy, whether it be making it possible for states to defund Planned Parenthood of America. We made incredible strides. You were there every single step of the way. But how times have changed, Marjorie.
Yeah.
I know we're looking at an enormously important court case just around the corner, but give our listeners a sense of the pro-abortion agenda that's in the saddle from the White House to Capitol Hill.
I'd like for everyone to know that, and then I want to back up and explain how we are where we are. So there is no question that we are at a pivot point in history when it comes to life because of the makeup of the Supreme Court, the case that they are hearing. They're going to hear a case that's come out of Mississippi that tests whether their 15-week limit on abortion is constitutional or not. And so this Supreme Court will ask one question only, and that is there any pre-viability limit on abortion constitutional? And that is a big question that they've agreed to answer. Agreed to explore. If the answer is yes, that overturns Roe versus Wade. Even if they put it in a different light, it does, because Roe and its companion decision, Doe v. Bolton, allows abortion up until the end, taxpayer funded without question. So that's what's on the table. It's huge. It's the overturn of Roe versus Wade after 50 years. But I want everyone here listening right now to know two things: that there was an idea that we could, using the tools of democracy, elect a president, an administration after a very pro-life Senate that would appoint Supreme Court justices, that would hear a case that could overturn Roe versus Wade. And there is only one reason that happened, and that is Trump Pence. That's the only reason that we're in this case. It's the only reason that we're here sooner than we even thought. I think many thought that this was just going to be the desert that we would be in as a country forever, that the pro-life movement would slave over this. We would always be, fighting against the forces that were insurmountable. But what happened was you and our president appointed justices, and you forced it in certain. We had 3 Supreme Court justices, and you supported a Senate that would confirm them. And then now we have a case to test Roe versus Wade, overturn it, and return to legislatures, including the Congress, but all state legislatures and the U.S. Congress, to finally legislate and catch up with the moral fiber at least the rest of the world has set out. And, Mr. Vice President, Governor, Congressman, Father, all the things that you have been have prepared you and the rest of us for this moment. And I am incredibly grateful.
Well, Marjorie, I'm very humbled by that, but your summary of the importance of this moment with the Dobbs case coming before the Supreme Court is extremely eloquent, and we have a real chance. I believe in our lifetimes we will see Roe versus Wade sent to the ash heap of history where it belongs, and it may well happen this year. So in the time that we have remaining, talk to me about that. The Susan B. Anthony list, folks, is the premier pro-life organization in America supporting women and men who are standing for the right to life for public office at every level. And I just commend Marjorie's team, SBA list, to your attention, everyone that cares about the sanctity of life. But long before the elections arrive this fall, we might be in a post-Roe America. And talk to us about what's happening in states around the country. States are enacting pro-life laws. They're preparing for that day. Conversely, we're seeing some states around the country that are authorizing abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, making pledges that if Roe goes down in the Supreme Court, that they'll work to defend it there. Talk to us about the strategy in this movement to renew American culture by restoring the sanctity of life if Roe versus Wade is overturned, as we all hope and pray.
So there's the media, there's reality, and then there's the future. So the media has basically, that is the legacy media, is ignoring this because it is not on their narrative. They did not see this coming, and they do not want to talk about it before the decision that is going to be late June, early July. They don't want to talk about it before then because they'd rather talk about that revolutionary moment and try to cast it in their own terms as we do midterm elections. So that's the media's, I think that's the media's strategy. That's why it is so quiet right now, even though it is a revolution in our country, in my opinion, in so many ways, in terms of human rights, also politically, culturally, in so many ways. But people who are paying attention, that don't need the media to tell them what they're thinking, are governors, people running for the Senate and the House, future presidential candidates who are digging in, thinking about what does the future look like in a post Roe versus Wade world? Who is it, or who should we be as a country? So what's happening is there are governors stepping up all over the country, looking with visionary acumen at what their state consensus is, at the strongest consensus that they can come up with their own states. It's going to be different every state. Also looking at what the future of chemical abortions, which is what the left has decided is the way to circumvent our laws and get chemicals inside the homes of women who are desperate and leave them alone with a pill and a pat on, and even not even a pat on the back, but just human suffering and visiting that point of abortion and the death of their children every day. And so there's the chemical abortion. Many of these governors are getting ahead of heroic governors all over the country. So for instance, in Oklahoma, they've passed a 15-week, a life at conception. They've passed pretty much every bill you can pass. The governor of Florida, DeSantis, passed a 15-week limit just the other day. I think the big question for us all, Vice President, is how we figure out what the most ambitious looks like. This is when I'm talking to all these governors, I really am. Like we've had meetings with 22 so far. And the question on the table is, what is your state law? What is the pregnancy care center prepared for? And what is the strongest consensus that you can build? And I think that is the case also that we need to ask our Congress, our U.S. Congress, federal candidates coming up in the system, and future presidential candidates. So that's the question for anyone running for any office, anywhere where you can have a moment to change history. So I think it's a question that you are grappling with all the time. I know.
Marjorie Dannenfelser is with us. She is the president of the Susan B. Anthony list. If you are not yet aware of or participating in the SBA list, I encourage you to go to sba-list.org. This is the premier organization in the country supporting women and men who are standing for the right to life, standing for elections all over the country at every level. And that's ultimately the key here, isn't it, Marjorie? It's about making sure if the Supreme Court of the United States, with including those three great justices we appointed, if they give us a new start on life in America, then it falls to the governors, it falls to the state legislatures, and it falls to each and every one of us to make sure that we have leaders that'll cherish the sanctity of life in states across the country. And you would know, as we step off here, the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. What is now has been before. People may not know how true that is of abortion in America and of Susan B. Anthony. The namesake of your organization is most known for helping win women the right to vote, but she was equally adamant about ending abortion in America. And 140 years ago, she led the charge once women won the right to vote that ended abortion in every state in the Union. And it is a remarkable piece of history and a source of great pride for, I know, the SBA list. But speak to that, if you will, as we get ready to let you get back to your day.
Yeah, I just think the link between every human rights cause of our time in American history has been supported by the founding documents and the tools of democracy. So whether it was suffrage or it was abolition, the civil rights movement, all of these had the common thread of the dignity of the human person and what we owe the human being. When it came to suffrage, I was on the commission to celebrate the 50th anniversary of suffrage recently, all during COVID, and it was an exploration once again of for me personally, not everybody on the commission, but for me personally and many on it, about the linking of human rights, that the rights of the child are intimately linked to the rights of the woman, that when you break that bond, you learn that you cannot possibly build human rights on the broken rights of another people. It just doesn't work like that. The economy of grace and the economy of human rights can't sustain hurting other human beings while you're trying to build up somebody else. It just doesn't work that way. So this movement, I think, at this particular time of polarization in so many ways, I think brings together all the human rights courts in a true intersectionalism that the other side talks about, so that we affirm the human rights of all, starting with the most basic one, the human right to life.
Marjorie Dannenfelser is the president of Susan B. Anthony List, everybody. She's joined us on American Freedom Today. Go to sba-list.org to get behind this great pro-life leader and her organization and all the great candidates around the country that they're helping. And And thanks for helping us put together the Freedom Agenda. The very first plank of the Freedom Agenda is the right to life. And its architect, Marjorie Dannenfelser, has been with us today. So thanks so very much, Marjorie. And thanks for all you do for life and for America.